am here with Sutton McCraney. She's been on the Making Business Effortless podcast in the past. And we've worked together on a few things. And what we noticed as we were observing the business space and just talking about, business between each other, we notice that sometimes when we're in the weeds, when we're in the thick of it, that there's a few aspects that lead us to want to pile more work on ourselves, even though we don't realize it. And I think it's sort of twofold. So, with you, Sutton, and we talked about your business, I think it was more from, I have this plan and it was a great plan, but you didn't realize that some of it was the same in certain aspects, or that it could take slower. You could go slower with it.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was more of seeing all these pieces, and I'm like, oh, well, these go together this way, instead of realizing, well, they're the same and they can go together, but it can be all one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like when you're looking at a maze from above, you can see how to get out, but if you're in the maze, you can't.
hmm
And I think that's where it's valuable getting somebody alongside of you. But we've noticed some things that some people have done. One, to try to scale like you were, and there's
hmm
just a few, I mean, they were small. It was a great plan. It was just, hey, let's trim a little bit. And then you have the person that's wanting to do it because they're being reactionary to the lead gen.
hmm
I'm not getting the right people. So what I've seen, and you let me know if you've seen this, like for example, the done for you services are trying to bring their clients up to speed so that they can use their done for you service. Have you noticed that?
I haven't, but I can see that. Like if you understand what I'm saying, like I can definitely see somebody doing that. Um, and like you said, it's reactionary because if you're bringing your ideal clients up to speed on that piece, then some of them may not hire you anyway. They're like, oh, well, I have this thing here, I'm good. Because
Yeah.
done for you serves a completely different purpose. It's for a completely different type of client, someone who does not have the time to do it, who wants, hands off.
Yeah. I think that, in that aspect, what I was hearing, I connected with quite a few done for you services, and what I was hearing, it's not what they
Mhm,
were thinking, but what I was hearing was, I'm going to do groups, or I'm going to help them one on one and teach them how to market and sell so that they know how to use the system and all that, which is great. That's wonderful.
mhm,
But that's actually dealing with a client that needs a business strategist that can sit down and say, let's look at what you're doing and see what actually needs to be put into place to help what you're doing run more effectively. Because if you have the basics of marketing, in my opinion, if you have that basic understanding of what marketing and sales is and how you can take your client from not knowing you at all to being your client, if you understand that, you have a better way of communicating with a done for you service. But why do you
mhm.
think that in this instance, it seems like we have a lot of people that get a done for you service because they just don't want to do the thing? But do you think that it's almost not quite planned out or hiring people to fix a problem? Or do you think that people are more deliberate in their hire?
From what I have personally observed with people who have come to me that were ready to do done for you, or conversations I've had with people, it was really just not wanting to do the thing, not not having it fleshed out what done for you would even entail. It was just like, let me just, give this to someone else. And with that, I think it really needs to be the right stage for done for you and the right mindset. Because the people I've talked to did not have their messaging. They did not really have their vision for their business in place and then the foundation to move forward with that.
Right.
So you're really asking a service provider to work miracles here.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually I see a lot of confusion in the market. So we have this promise of quick fixes, going to the next aspect that we see with everybody tells you just delegate what you don't want to do. Well, sure, but make sure that thing that you don't want to do actually contributes to your business before you just throw it at somebody. Make sure that it is actually generating some kind of income for you, that it will give you return on your investment, because whatever you're using to put gas on the fire, so to speak, is going to cost money and time in some freaking way. And that's the only thing about being very careful about just, okay, well, I'll just hire this person because I don't want to, versus somebody says, I want to hire this person because I don't want to, but I know that's important to my business. There's a difference there. Right. So if we look at that, there's also a difference in the mindset of the person that comes along and they start out their big, membership and challenge or whatever, and they have big, huge expectations for that big, moment in the sun. And they get great lead gen at first, but then it starts to peter out. So what have you noticed happens when you have that, that even that for, even with the newbie, even with the more experienced ones, that they get that big sale that happens, around Christmas and the adrenaline gets popping. And then then there's it sinks a little bit and then it rises, the wave that can happen. And for some, it's more of a bigger, deeper wave, where others it's just more like a nice little ripple. There's still that in that dip, there's still that, okay, well, when's it going to happen again? So have you noticed, what are some of the reactions and behaviors that you've noticed when there's a dip?
I have noticed, it's really funny you mentioned that. I have a client right now that we kind of have this conversation
It's funny,
repeatedly.
isn't it?
And it's a lot of things. First thing I will say is that there is not a proper strategy in place, I would say. That's the first thing. And the second thing is dips are going to happen as a business owner. That's just what it is. When you worked a 9 to 5, dips were happening in corporate that they were talking about. Board was sitting around discussing. You never saw it because you weren't there.
And they discussed what to do about it so that it wouldn't dip too far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So really wrapping your head around that's okay. And that's not necessarily means that what you're doing isn't working. We really need to dig deeper instead of just saying, oh, well, sales are dwindling or my momentum, is gone. What do we do? And then differentiating between momentum doesn't always equate to sales. Like you can still be building momentum, because I see a lot of people that just want that wham bam thank you man. Like, okay, I did all the things. Where's the sales? Well, the sales happen when the ground swells, when you have that kind of crescendo effect, where all of your efforts have compounded and those things come together.
Right.
So I think that really just having, and also that resilience within yourself to hold
It's more than trust the process. You have to, I think one business owner that I came across that was in a business that's always go, go, go. It's not it's just the nature of the beast, right? And she said, you have to be dedicated. You have to be willing to be up at odd hours, at times, not all the time, just at times. You have to be willing to get up and go in a flash. I've talked to 7-figure coaches that they didn't even know what freaking presentation they were going to do on day one of their challenge that they were holding until the day of the challenge. But that's because they already had a system in place, and things that they already knew was already the big, one of the pieces that led to those results that you talked about with the momentum. They understood what those buttons were triggered by which content. So in a flash, they could just make the decision right away based off of reading what leads they have, right? So I think that also leads to the flip side. So let's say you are, you're doing you're throwing you go through the stages of throwing things at the wall, right? We're throwing things at the wall. We're trying everything under the sun. There's not really a strategy there. We're just doing what somebody else said to do. And then eventually you reach this point where you start realizing, as you invest and get more and more, confident in yourself and making decisions, you get stung a few times, but you start to realize, just don't put your fork in that socket. You start to realize those kind of things. And I think at that point you start to create those boundaries, but the flip side can still happen, I think, when you're successful. Because I think, in my experience, you have those clients, there's a point when you reach the clients. You start getting the clients consistently, and then you start going, oh God, how do I keep this train going? Because now you've got the momentum is there, and now you're just really going. You're chugging along. You know exactly how many clients to get through the door. You know how many, and how to serve these clients. And now you got to make the decision. Do I do a VA? Do I automate? Do I get rid of stuff? What do I do here? Otherwise, even with success, you can drive yourself into the ground by adding too much before you're ready. So I think when we talk about doing these kinds of things, I think that some of the reactionary thing has to do with lead gen. Like in your particular case, going back to your client, I did the same thing with you're talking about the more newer business owner who's still in that little bit of a chaotic moment. They're not really sure what the momentum looks like. They don't really know what the momentum looks like. And I remember doing the same thing, sitting there going, 2 days ago, you made a sale. And last week you did the same thing. And then you made a sale. So you start, that's where it's helpful, I think. But I think those that will not, those that want it handed to them are a different mindset from the person who turns around and says, I see it and I want support for it. Do you think it's better to be proactive in business or to wait until something happens and then get support? I know that sounds random, but
I think you need to be proactive.
Yeah, because you came to me because you were going to plan this. You were in the midst of doing it, but then you said, I want somebody to get their eyes on it and just take a look at it. And I think that a lot of people want that, but for some reason, what is the problem in the market where there's the distrust? Because I think there's distrust being built off of people doing the lead gen crazy, throw everything and offer everything, and therefore their marketing gets muddled. And then there's, the other group.
Other things.
So, I mean, why are we reluctant, or is it a lack of services like that? Or is it because we have people wanting just to push their agenda and they're that leads back to the lack of services like that. Or is it that we just can't find quality coaches? Or both?
That's a good question. I think it's a combination of all. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So the one that's noisy is the one that we're going to hear the most. And that tends to be the ones that lack the quality from my experience. I also think there's a lot of distractions out there and a lot of misinformation when it comes to how you should do things. Like I have a peer that I was emailing back and forth today, and she's a high performance coach. And she said, you know what, I have just decided that business coaches can only give me a piece of the puzzle. I need to do my own thing. She's like, for so long, coaches have been telling me I need to be on social media and doing all this stuff. She's like, I don't like it. She's like, I enjoy writing. I want to write. I want to do blogs. That's how I'm going to build my brand.
I think that's when after you've been stung so many times, you've been pushed and pulled left and right, and they keep telling you this is the one thing, and they want to. And if you talk about marketing and sales, I've felt it too, and I'm sure you have too. If you give your opinion about marketing and sales, they still want to stand firm in their opinion, and you're sitting there going, "I'm agreeing with you, but this is the piece that I think is more important." For example, somebody said today, somebody was asking about, I want to get my podcast going. I just started, and they asked about SEO. And I was like, whoa, slow your roll. How about we just do some podcast episodes? Let's just see if we like it, okay, before we start doing that mess. Because keyword research is when you're getting serious and there's a strategy behind it. It has a lot to do with your copywriting. And there is a strategy behind it that you have to take. It's the piece that actually is the shit sandwich. That's where you spend a lot of time versus somebody who gets on and does cold calling or cold outreach, where they have a specific number of people that they need to reach every day. Well, keyword research is kind of the same thing. You're optimizing it so you can increase the search result. You end up ranking higher and higher with keywords. So they throw that at her. And I think that when people do that, they end it with just need to know who your listener is or who your client is, and the whole niche statement thing leads them to believe this is all you need to know. So when it doesn't work out, they start piling on top of themselves. They figure out how to make it work themselves. Honestly, I think that's what happens. Figure out how to make it work themselves after taking so many courses that have just pieced together their information. And they figured out how to make it work, but they're not quite sure exactly the one thing that makes it work. So they're doing 100% of what everybody's told them to do with, let's do thousands of platforms. Let's do all the website stuff. And then finally they just go, this is what I want to do. And that's actually where they should have been told to focus in the first place.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I do think there's a benefit in doing the chaotic thing. I do think there is. Do you think there's a benefit in being that person? Because you went through your chaotic phase. Don't even lie.
No.
We all do. But I think there's a benefit to it, don't you?
Yeah, I think there's a benefit, but I would like to help my clients avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other benefit, right?
Yeah.
But if we're talking about like your friend who's like, I'm just going to do it myself, because I get what she was saying when I was looking for somebody to help. I have a funnel book with 53 funnels in it. Somebody tell me something different. Every funnel I looked at, I was like, it's the same shit, just bigger.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, just like, somebody tell me something different. And out of the clear blue, it's like they're unicorns that just pop out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Real business consultants. They call themselves business coaches because that's what the audience calls them. But they're real business coaches. They didn't just wake up one morning and say, I think I'll be a business coach. They actually have that
That's another
background on them.
podcast.
Yeah, that's another podcast. So I mean, they actually have that. So I think that there's a reluctance there, and you get successful because I've heard the client that says, "Well, I'll wait until there's a problem in my business." Well, the problem happens when you're not seeing the leads that you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's when you need to catch it, is when you're sitting there going, I don't like the people that are contacting me in the DMs. And I'm not talking about people that are trying to sell to you. I'm talking about the people that you think are freebie seekers and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, with piling things on. So when you see somebody piling something on, what does that look like to you when they're piling on in their business? What's an example that you've seen?
Well, that would look like, to me, taking on things that they don't want to take on. If
To
they're
do in
focused
order to
with,
do what? Why would they do that?
because it's what you're supposed to do.
Okay, so what are the examples? What are the examples of what you're supposed to do?
You are supposed to, sacrifice. You're supposed to be up at wee hours in the night and the morning working on who knows what on your business.
So
Burning the midnight oil. You are supposed to be on multiple platforms at once. You are supposed to have a sales page. You are supposed to have an email funnel, an event that you're hosting, a freebie, a masterclass, a Facebook group, a school group too, a podcast, being all the bundles and
I mean, do you hear? I mean, there are people with actually all of that going on in their
yes.
business, and I've been there too. But it's like you don't recognize it until you focus in on one traffic source, one conversion item, one. Just focus in on one. And the thing is Facebook is a strategy. LinkedIn is a strategy, and LinkedIn isn't just social media, it's SEO. YouTube is Google. I mean, hello, so they have different behaviors and different ways that they work. And on top of that, you want to add email marketing. These are a lot of steps. And I don't think we know how to break them down. So how would you break down? We'll do something small first. Posting. Okay. Somebody just thinks that you need to post, 2-3 times a week. Well, what's the breakdown of that if you're going to talk about it strategy wise? I mean, just a simple framework of what you think about when you're posting.
Well, my first question is what is the purpose of this posting? Are we just, posting a poster? Is this leading someone to somewhere? That's the biggest issue I see with posting specifically is there's no um there's no planning behind it as far as not necessarily the words themselves, but where do we go from here? Where do
What
we
am
go?
I selling?
That too. Where do we go from eyeballs on words to where? What happens after that?
Where are you taking them? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge thing even with Facebook as they would hammer that in. They're like you have to be clear about where you're sending people. What is their next step? I think
Right.
that the problem is that a lot of people are told that they need to post, but they're not understanding there's a different way, there's different ways to post, there's different types of posts. There's all kinds
Mhm.
of different strategies. I've noticed a huge uptick when I just post something that just gets everybody's attention, either pisses them off or gets some, just wanting to comment, and then posting something else right quick where it's a call to action and I get results. I see it. I see what happens. Oh, there's a knob, there's a button, there's another trigger,
Mhm.
I don't,
Mhm.
I think everybody believes, well, I posted once and I should be growing my business now.
Mhm.
I don't, that's a bit extreme though. Do you really think they think that?
Yes. And I'm not even saying that to be, facetious or anything like that. I think people think that because they think that's how it works. You put the coin into the slot machine
Well,
and
let's
it
look at the
rains down.
proof on social media. What are they told? I mean, we have I went viral.
Yeah.
Learn my template for going viral. That's like telling people the
Yeah.
numbers you scratched on the
Uh-huh.
lotto.
I made 10K from one post, but
Yeah.
there's no context to how all of that went down. And there's
Hmm.
always context.
There's always something that you go,
Convert right from your content, which there is context to that.
yeah, you can, but it's email marketing has this nurture aspect to it. A lot of people use paid ads and email marketing. There is a no like trust aspect that I think people don't really realize that there's more strategy to it than just, hey, post a post, say that's a direct call to action versus one that's more of an engagement post or one that's more of an inspirational post or one that's more of an education post. We have all these themes and stuff, but what I think in the beginning, what we were trying to get across is you mix it up because your audience can get tired of your shit
Hmm.
because you have to repeat like a drunken parrot all the time,
Hmm.
to get the word out. But do you think you have to post all day, every day in order to get clients?
No, and quite frankly, unless you're a content creator, that's another thing. A lot of the advice that I have observed and been privy to when it comes to marketing your business online has been for content creators. And I think that is a huge misstep for those out there who are giving that advice because a business owner should not be marketing like a content creator. You're a content creator,
Yeah.
that is your bread and butter to create content. So yes, you need to be on there multiple times a day. A business owner, no.
Yeah, I think that, I've worked with business owners that aren't necessarily content creators, but what they do is what people want to learn. And they there is a problem there because they've been told the quick fixes, the shallow things out there on social media versus having somebody, actually do a video or something that is, you know, um, gives them steps to understand that this is not something that happens overnight. You
Mhm.
have to keep doing this for at least this, because the main question I always hear is how long? And even successful business owners, yeah, how long does it take to get clients? I can't tell you. Can't tell you that because it depends on what you're doing. And I've seen this guy, he's not a content creator, but he has somebody else write his webinars for him. And he goes out there and makes his appearance. He knows what to say. He's told them what it is that he wants put in there. He knows what he needs to say. They're just tweaking it so that his audience can understand it. That's all they're doing. And they know how to do that because he's clearly communicated with them. This is what I need in here. This is what my people have told me they need to know. These are the frequently asked questions. And I think that we tend to, and that was his big money thing. I mean, I've seen coaches make a lot of money just on selling one offer instead of having, like, the Walmart Supercenter website that I see out there sometimes, where they got 16,000 different things for you to choose from. I mean, think about it. If you've got 16,000 different things to choose from, which one are you going to go for? The big price one, the little one, or the middle one? Depends on the pricing. Honestly, it depends on the pricing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we're doing that, we're being told all of that. And then we have bad lead gen and we don't understand why it's not working. What do we turn around and do? We're already stretched thin. What do we turn around and do? We've already sat there and done that. We're doing all the challenges and everything, going crazy. What else do we turn around and do?
Hire someone else, burn it all to the ground.
Let's bring them in on our hot mess.
Yeah, change niche. Yeah.
Pivoting, adding another social media, doing another offer, a bigger offer, offering more inside the offer. In and of itself. I've seen people offer, like, this one girl had group sessions where they were accountability sessions for the group to meet, right? But she had to moderate it, so she was there. So you tell me what you think if you heard about a coach doing this. So just if as a prospective client, I know what I already think. So, but that's just it's my opinion. So anyway, she has that group, and then she has one-on-ones that she does with her, her VIP people, but they also get access to the free group. And then they also get access to the group that she has for paid people. And she's available in all of these, as well as doing lives inside of her group on Facebook, which everybody's in. Would you want to pay her?
It sounds repetitive and it sounds like too much. If I was looking to hire her, I'd be like, well, what's the point of me paying, for this VIP when it's just, everyone else in there?
What we call that is her offer is cannibalizing. So you've got the ones that are free. Your free offers can actually cannibalize your paid because you're giving too much in the free. And then we lead into the whole gatekeeping argument. It's not gatekeeping. I think it's making too big of a promise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if someone's paying, say $50 per month, how is it gatekeeping to give them $50 per month worth of whatever it is, information, guidance, because that's what that person paid for. If you're giving them more than that, you're probably overwhelming the person.
Well, the thing is that they talk about high ticket coaches, right? Which you're targeting more corporate level, big, professionals that are making those 6, 7, 8 figures even, right? And so you've got those people, they have a different mindset around all of this. They look at that kind of stuff, and what they're like is, you can save me time. If you can get me my answer in X amount of time, I will pay you thousands, because that's how much they're wasting time trying to figure it out.
Well, yeah, and they understand that time is money.
Yeah. The more they sit on it, the more they bounce around, the more money they're losing. So they want somebody that can tell them the answer right then and there. That's why, you hear about coaches saying they're charging for $30,000 VIP days, is because they're targeting those big guys. The flip side of that is they do have to do a little bit more marketing, but they might have 1 or 2 clients that pay for their whole freaking year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a completely different, mindset and who you're talking to. And that's another thing, your offers need to reflect who it is that you're trying to target, right?
Yeah. So I think when you actually overgive, you're repelling the higher paying people.
If that's who you want, yeah.
Well, the higher paying people, if that's who you want, correct, right? It depends on the niche that you want. So if you're looking at your person, if they are more of a beginner, because I've helped the beginning, the startups, just fresh out of the box, here we are, I know what I want to do. And they've done a little bit of the research, and they've got a plan of action, but they just don't know how to get there. What are those small steps they need to take? And I think where they're misled is they're told this is all you need to do, but they're not told this is what you need to do with your business plan. They already had a
Mm-hmm.
plan of action. Most of them know what they want to do and
Mm-hmm.
why. And then somebody comes along and says, screw that, let's do something else.
Oh, yeah. That's a big issue.
Yeah.
hmm That
I
happened to
think
me.
it's yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say that happened to me. So yeah, it's definitely something that happens. People coming along and kind of just like it could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe that's just their wheelhouse and now how they see that things work. But I think if you are in the position of a coach or mentor, you need to be the one that is open-minded
hmm
and helping someone flesh out that vision, especially, there's someone in the early stages because I don't know.
Well, they don't know. And you really have to be keen on hearing that. And I think that, serving a certain type of startup, they have to have a certain mindset to work with me. I've worked with them. I've had, like I said, I've had them come to me with no clients, and I've had them come to me after their first year of booking clients. And they didn't want to hop around. They had those boundaries already in place. It seemed like there's like a different mindset about that client that wants to do the do versus the client that is like, hey, give me the steps. I mean, it doesn't matter what level of business, but I do like the successful solopreneur because there's that nice little tweak right there where you're trying to scale and reach your next revenue goal. And you need to make sure that you have that system in place because I've seen too many businesses grow too fast and actually take a nosedive because of the growth. So there's a fine balance there. And I think we're taught we need to do it fast. But the thing
hmm
is, we have Sutton McCraney over here with her children, her beautiful children that she wants to take care of. And then we have Alex Ramosi with his electric truck and his hot girl. Yeah. Yeah, Sutton's gonna be slow because Sutton's got babies that are growing up fast. Sutton's gonna have different boundaries compared to Alex Ramosi. And he knows his, I'm not saying,
Yeah.
he knows his stuff, but the speed that he has to go is equal to the kind of lifestyle he wishes to lead.
Well, and that's the key here, the lifestyle the person wishes to lead. And that's the part that is left out. We
Mm-hmm.
are given the Harmosies and the Gary V's as the standard instead of, wait a minute, why did you start your business in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
You had, like I have a client whose mother is ill. You wanted to be able to take care of your mother, right? Or me, you wanted to be able to be more present with your children. That's where the focus needs to be. So, coaches, mentors, let's help you live that out. Let's help you
Mm-hmm.
do that, whatever that looks like.
I mean, it's okay to be vanilla. We don't have to own the electric
Yeah,
truck. Okay. So, I mean,
yeah.
like, I'm like podcasts and horses. I'm good to go. You know, I had a
Mhm.
client who all he wanted to do was get in a trailer and just travel around the world running his business. That's all he wanted to do. That was it.
Yeah.
And I mean, he didn't care about making zillions of dollars. He just wanted to make enough to live that lifestyle that he wanted.
hmm
And
So
that's
how do we
what it's
help him get there?
about.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I mean, you do need to, in your messaging, speak to the person that wants the level of business that you want to support. Because I do want somebody that's serious about growing, not just somebody that wants to do it as a side hustle. I want somebody that wants to, well, I mean, there's people that do wonderful, successful side hustles,
hmm
but I'm talking about, I don't want to say real business, but business. I mean, it's where you're running something that runs for you and supplies your income and supports your family and supports your lifestyle. The thing that gives you that, for me, the beautiful freedom of being able to go, you know what, fuck you. I'm not doing that right now. I'm going to go over here.
hmm
I mean, literally. But yet here we are thinking that we need to live the fast life and do everything 1,000 miles per hour. And then when lead gen isn't great, or when we are stretching ourselves thin and and that train is going fast, we don't see why we can't put the brakes on or where the brakes are sometimes. And I think that's why it's imperative to have that mentor that's been there, a little bit ahead of you to speed that up a little bit, to move it forward in that aspect.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I think people like you and I and others listening, I think it's our responsibility to be open and honest about
I think
that.
when you're
Yes, it's
transparent, it
not,
works better.
yeah. I mean, yes, it's not cute, it's not glamorous, but it needs to be said, to help build the trust again that's been broken in this online industry.
We got caught up in going fast. And it's kind of like you go back, I hate to do this, but you go back to when people told stories. The story would change with each generation until it was written down. And even after that, it was changed and manipulated and changed and manipulated. Every story that's old as time has been changed and manipulated because of what's man's interpretation as it was passed down from generation to generation. The same thing can happen in your business. When you're in business and with the way that the online space has grown, it's like we lost bits and pieces of those keys because we were trying to go too fast. COVID came along and it sped a lot of things up, and people were like, I don't know how I got here, but I'm really successful doing it. Let me teach you how. And that's literally what it is. That's what happened. But, then you have inside your own business, this can happen. You start your business, you get it up and running, you're successful, growing the business, getting clients in consistently. And now you noticed, I had a client who hired on staff. He didn't hire on a VA. He hired on another teacher. He hired on another instructor who could take on the classes that he was offering in his model. He didn't hire a VA.
Yeah, that's what
And that gave him free time to focus more on the private sessions, which were a much higher price, which gave him more free time to go. And he started dipping into other corporate and organizations and introducing his process to them, and they were buying it from him. So he had time to be able to step away from his business. But the thing is that we were very much aware of is you have your business that you're doing. And he said, I need somebody that understands my business. I'm going to hire one of my students. And he did. He said, you have to be, he's in his mindset, and he was right. In his mindset, you want to know exactly how to tell that person what you want. And he said, I prefer for them to have an understanding of my business before they step up in here and as someone who's working for my business, because if they don't, that can stop the business from moving forward. They're going to add more business. They're going to add more work for you in the process. And on top of that, that first hire is usually somebody that knows your business. And then you have the other ones. So just like the stories getting manipulated and changed with each addition, that deteriorates. And that's why you need an owner who's watching and knows what to look for to see what triggers and what buttons are not being pushed.
That's an excellent breakdown of that. Yeah.
And automation is the same way. I mean, I notice, the most common thing that we're told to do is get a website and have an email marketing thing and be on social media. Those are the three big.
Don't while you sleep.
Here it comes. So get ready. Brace yourself. And then the email takes forever to grow and all of that. And I did help a client through ads increase his email list from, less than 500 to well over 1,000 in 24 hours. But he was like, whoa, it scared him to death. But he was like, thank God you're here. Because I was like, you need to do this, 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 this. That way it'll trigger it and you've got it, and they can just go ahead and book. And it's that kind of thing that I think business owners are lacking in some of these services, where you've got somebody that can go, here, this is what you need to do. The path of least resistance to get it done so you can get the check in the mail from your clients. I mean, you've got to understand your client onboarding, but you've got to understand your client acquisition as well.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have a chat about the dark side of business later on in this year. So if anybody wants to tell us some little comments about what you think we should talk about on the dark side of business, like, bad sales calls.
That could be a whole series.
Yeah, we could do a whole series on this one, or worst advice ever. I mean,
You want to wait for Halloween to do it?
We could do it on Halloween. You guys send in like your horror stories and we'll share them on Halloween. Send us your horror stories and we will read your horror stories and tell you what we think about the horror story.
That sounds like fun.
Just do something fun for Halloween. The dark side of business. Scary. All right. Sutton's
Business
information
House
is
of
down.
Horrors.
Sutton's information is down below. She helps the leaders in business, is who she's helping out there. Those big professionals out there who are just wanting some extra time and space to either punch a pillow or go out and enjoy a day with the kids. So thank you so much, Sutton. Let you get back to your family. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Leah.